Hello and welcome to another segment of Interviews That Matter. I'm your host Raj Mehta. Friends, in this segment, we bring those guests who influence our lives. This includes elected officials, policymakers, heads of major organizations, and other dignitaries. It is my sincere hope that the knowledge brought in by these guests will help our community. Today we have such guest, Director of Nassau County Film Office. Her name is Debra Markowitz. Debbie, thank you so much for coming to the show. Appreciate your taking time this morning. So Debbie, I know you're a film producer and you're many things actually.
Yes.
You're very busy in doing many, wearing different hats, a lot of different hats. So let's hear from you. How many hats you wear and what are they?
Okay, well, there's a lot of hats. I'm the Nassau County Film Commissioner. When people want to make television shows, movies, commercials, videos, and whatnot in Nassau County, we help them with locations and all kinds of cutting through red tape for them and really helping them out in every way possible. As part of that, we also run the Long Island International Film Expo, which is going into its 17th year, which basically we show independent films from all over the world during, usually it's July, and it's going to be July again in 2014. And that's all part of that job. But then when I'm not at work, when I take my vacations, pretty much I'm making movies. So I'm also a film producer, casting director, a writer. I've written 3 novels, yeah, and I just finished, a trilogy, and I also ghostwrite for other people. So I do everything, and I work a lot.
Yeah, but how do you find time of doing all this?
I think it's a matter of balancing. I mean,
Right.
if we get time off, I'm looking so excited for the holiday that I can actually write, that work on some writing projects and do a little marketing for my book, which I really haven't had enough time to do that. And that's it. When I'm on vacation, I hate to say it, but I've got my laptop and I'm usually working.
Wow. When did you start this? And what did you start it with?
Okay, well, with the Nassau County Film Commission, I started in actually 1988.
Oh, okay.
And it's really grown a tremendous amount. I mean,
Right.
we're talking from maybe 30 production days the first year to over 650. And 650, I'm sure, is an understatement. It's just difficult to track them all reliably.
Right.
But it's become extremely busy with the tax incentives and very, very film-friendly administration under County Executive Ed Mangano. It's gone through the roof. It's amazing.
So since 1988, right, you started the film, the commissioner of the Nassau County Film.
Right.
So from there, it was only 35 film days
It's
in a
only
year?
about 35, yeah.
And when did it go up? Like in a Mangano administration, it really went up, or it was before?
It started a little before that, but really it took off after. And some of the reasons are there's tax incentives now that the state has that are very, it's incredible. It brings them in because of course they're going to save money, but that's not going to work if you don't have the locations or if you're not film friendly.
Right.
So things like the Theodore Roosevelt Executive and Legislative Building, nobody had ever filmed there before. Since the county executive came in, we sat down, we discussed a film shoot, and he said, if we can do it safely and we can get everybody out the back door instead of the front door so they can still do their jobs, let's do it. And since then, we've had at least 15 shoots there between Royal Pains, Running Wild, Onion Sports Network. Good Wife has been there several times. So it's that opened up. And probably one of our busiest locations is the Nassau County Correctional Center because we have a few empty tiers.
Right.
And since they're empty, it's not an inexpensive place to film because they have to pay all the correctional officers, make it sure it's safe and whatnot. However, people love to film there. And we started with City Island with Andy Garcia. Also, Good Wife has been there many times. Arthur was there. Royal Pains. I mean, just about every movie in the world seems to have been there at one time or another.
Wow. So what happened before 88?
What was I doing before that?
Yeah, of course.
Well, I was writing. I had had a few things published in magazines. I was actually a credit manager for a company in Deer Park. And I was doing writing on the side, and somebody had asked that I go in and have an interview with the county executive at the time, and I sat down and we discussed what I did, and I ended up writing speeches and using my writing abilities to write different articles and papers and work on some special projects and whatnot. And I did that for about a year, and then I started looking around the county because I really wanted to make use of my writing and my business skills because my degree is in business.
Okay.
And I found this department called Commerce and Industry. and I did film permits, but maybe 5 a year. It wasn't really, it was sort of like an extra part of a job. It wasn't really a job. And so I made a proposal to the county executive. It was County Executive Tom Galata at the time. And he looked at it and he said, okay, he said, well, let's give it a try. Let's see how it works. And it just took off. And it just took off from there.
So from writing to film, right? I mean, that was like
Right.
natural. It's not a natural transformation, right?
Oh, I was the person who used to stay up and watch the Late Show, Late Show, Late Show, up until the morning. Also, I started out as a drama major in college.
Oh, okay.
And
now it explains.
and I got out of that because I thought I'm not going to make a living doing this. I was going to be an actor. Who makes a living being an actor? So I had stepped out, and it's just so I always had a love of film, and I always had a love of drama. I always had a love of the arts. So it really just came out perfectly, that I'm in a field that I love, working with very creative people, which is a wonderful thing. And, using the business sense to be able to draw people in and find out what people need and keep the records you need to keep and whatnot. So it's kind of been a good mix.
So you are the one who proposed the county executive to create this film division in Nassau County?
Yes.
And he went with your idea, and now it is so, like, as I hear that in 2012 there was about $140 million direct indirect benefit to the county.
Yes.
So that's a significant revenue.
Oh, it's huge.
It's huge revenue.
Yeah, I have to say that even when the economy was at its very lowest a few years ago, we were still busy. You see that change sometimes, like right after 9/11, all the commercial industry pretty much died out, and you still had some movies. Then you had a lot of commercials, then no commercials, when everything failed again. But then with the tax credit, movies and television, I think there's 22 television shows that have filmed on Long Island and in Nassau County, just in 2012 alone. And that's not talking about the movies as well.
So is it a Nassau County tax advantage or state? What is it? What is
it's a state tax incentive. Yeah.
So the whole state can take benefit, right?
Exactly.
Not only Nassau County.
Right, but we have great locations. We are close enough to the city that we're in the studio zone, which means that everything in that zone is a report to location. So if you go outside of that zone, technically the production company has to pay their people from the time it would take to travel from Columbus Circle to the location. If you're in the zone, everything is report to. The minute you step on the premises and you're supposed to work is when you start getting paid.
Okay, so the actor, all the crew.
Right.
If you are within the zone, which is how many miles? Within the zone.
There's different unions. It's about 25.
About 25 miles. So within 25 miles from Columbus Circle, you say? 25-mile radius.
Right.
So they don't have to pay anything.
Right. Well, you don't have to pay the extra, exactly.
Extra meaning that, the transportation costs and everything like that. And they will just report over there.
Exactly.
That's how it works. Oh, okay. So that's the benefit, basically.
Right.
And plus, Nassau County has many locations.
We have many locations, and as of like the last 5, 6, 7 years, we have the studios. So at the time, they were not very busy. We used them once or twice. They weren't studios yet, but I think they were owned partially by Grumman, partially by the state, partially by the county and whatnot. And when they finally were taken over and they were sold, now there's Grumman Studios and Gold Coast Studios. It started out slow, but now I think they have waiting lists of people trying to get in there because the space is phenomenal and it's that busy.
Oh.
So it's
in Bethpage?
There's actually 3 in Bethpage. 2 of the studios belong to Gold Coast, and 1 is Grumman Studios.
Okay. Oh, wow, interesting. So now they have a line.
Yes,
they have
exactly.
a line of people to wait, So what is a typical shoot? Like how long it takes? Like 2, 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever. How many in a day, let's say?
Oh, it depends. I mean, most shoots, for the majority, I'd say most shoots are at least 10 hours a day.
10 hours a day?
Yeah, especially if you're talking about a major feature film, like we've had Spider-Man out here.
Right.
Oh, so many things. We've had Spider-Man. I can't even go. Annie is here now. Sound of Music. I mean, there's so many really large features. 10 hours a day is really not, would not be surprising. And sometimes they're there for months. Sometimes they're there for an entire year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Television shows are there also. The Normal Heart. It's not out yet, but that was at Gold Coast for quite a while. Salt was the first thing I think we got at Grumman Studios. We'd had a movie by Alec Baldwin many years ago that used some of the property at Gold Coast, but it wasn't Gold Coast Studios yet. But it gave us the idea that these would be perfect movie studios. But it really had to get as busy as it is to make it viable.
So producer decides to shoot over there, and then they just pay by day?
I don't think that they
Or
do that. I don't
project.
get involved. Yeah, I don't get involved
No,
in
you
the
don't.
money end
Okay,
of it. But
that's
probably chances are they sit down, they sign the contract. There's probably certain money due at certain intervals
Right,
and
I
whatnot.
got you. Okay. So Debbie, what is your typical day look like? I mean, you do a lot of different things. So give us a analogy of the day that
Mm-hmm.
you know what time you wake up and until you sleep. You know,
Okay.
what does it look like?
Okay.
I
all
do
right, a
see
typical day
you're
for
very
me-
active on Facebook.
Yeah, true. Typical day.
Yes.
I start at about 5:15. I
Okay.
get up, walk the dog, have my breakfast. Well, I have that later. I work out. I either do yoga or whatever it is I'm doing for the day. I get to work. Then it's going through the messages, checking the emails, seeing what urgent things have come up. Take care of whatever jobs have come in. Could be commercials, again, could be movies, could be features. We've done a lot of impossible things, so sometimes I walk in, that's the first thing I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with it at night, when emails come through my computer at home. Like for the television show, The Blacklist, they staged a blow up on the Long Beach Bridge, which
Right.
I'll get into that. That was tremendous. So there were many days just working mostly on that, besides some of the other things coming in. So I do that till about 5:30, 6, and then I come home and then I walk the dog,
Oh,
or shop or do what I have to do, and then pretty much I'm writing or I'm producing a movie right now, and this is about the third film. I think I'm third or fourth film I'm producing. I don't remember now. So then I'm working on that. And I do have, if I have 1 or 2 nights of insomnia during the week, I'll get up at 2:30. I'll just start working.
Oh, you start
and that's when I
working.
get the best work done. That's really when I get the best work
At
done.
night, right?
Yeah. And then I'm developing a script for another producer. So, they have to take turns. They know I have this project. As soon as I finish that, I'm going to jump into that. And as soon as I finish that, I'm going to jump into the next one.
So they wait
So-
for that.
Yeah.
Right,
I've been
they-
lucky that way.
Wow,
Yeah.
very nice, very nice. So do you know all these people, or you got to know, or how do you find, like for example, how do you find a producer contact you that they're looking for a location, and then you have a list of all locations, and then you provide them, and then they pick based on whatever their needs are.
Well, for the
Is that how it
locations,
works?
yes. Locations,
Right.
they can do it several ways. They can either look at our website. We have a lot of photos on our website of mansions, buildings, suburban homes. They can see something there and say, okay, now there's only a code. We don't give the address or the contact information. But if there's something they want there, we call the homeowner. We tell them what the project is. If they're interested, we put the two of them together. We don't take any money for that. They basically, whatever deal they work out with the production company, they do that. Sometimes they're looking for basketball courts. We have a list of 7 pages of basketball courts. So, we can send them that. We try to update it once a year, but this way they can go through it, see what areas they want. We have film-friendly schools, which is a very hard one, but we have a list of them that are very film-friendly. We can tell them what areas are great, which areas have a very high fee, because sometimes they'll ask us that. And then sometimes I'm throwing a shout out to a list of contacts, of which are one of them. If we're looking for something special, and maybe we have some ideas, but maybe there's something else out there we don't know about.
Right,
So
right,
we'll throw a shout out, and depending on the job, sometimes I'll get a lot of really great responses. One of the most bizarre ones is somebody needed a store on a
Right.
main street that still had items in it, but that was empty because they needed to blow out the store windows on a street in the middle of the night. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be crazy. But I spoke to a few people. We actually found it in Malvern because they had somebody who had a store. He had left, for whatever reason, left everything in the store. And it's like they said, well, if they do it at night, we can have the windows up by the morning, So,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, so there's things that you find that are just amazing. Even the Long Beach Bridge, the thing I stated before, was probably one of the most difficult shoots I've ever done because there were people coming out of helicopters, landing on the bridge, car crashes on the bridge, explosions on the bridge, people rappelling into the water, boats picking up people. So we needed the city of Long Beach, the village of Island Park had to give their approval, county executive had to give the approval, building department had to give the approval, police department, I don't know if I mentioned Aviation Bureau, Coast Guard, arson squad, and we had about 15, 20 associates that all had to agree. And we would sit there in this room trying, okay, what would make you comfortable? What would work for you? What would be said? And we made it work. and they kept half the bridge open while this was happening.
Wow.
So we made sure it only could be on the weekend because this way we wouldn't impact rush hour. We had enough time to let all the constituents know. So, there would, people would be aware of it and they wouldn't get frightened, if they saw this happening. And we made it happen. And we just had a shoot, ended yesterday, Annie, they're doing a remake of Annie. And they needed to do a shoot where they had helicopters landing and cars crashing through gates and whatever. And they didn't really have a lot of notice. And we managed to pull it off in less than a week. At Eisenhower Park.
Wow.
Yeah, and we had to close because it's off season. We were able to close most of the park. Wow. And of course then we had to get Aviation Bureau, Police Department, everybody else involved, plus let all the neighbors know on one side of the park. But we're able to pull it off for them.
So, you get all this permission or
I
producer
put
has to
everybody
do
together.
that?
Yeah,
Huh?
no, usually I put everybody together. They have to do whatever it is that, the entities want them to do.
Right.
But I'm usually the one who says, you have to talk to this person, this,
Okay, so you know all these people, right, basically, and they have to talk to, producer has to give them everything.
Yes.
That what is exactly is going to happen.
Exactly.
And then they approve it or whatever, right?
Right.
Whatever the objections
Exactly.
are. And then how many constituents they have to send it out a memo to, or how do they?
It depends. I think they sent it out to a lot of people in Island Park and, Long Beach. We had a couple of weeks notice and the production company went out and handed out flyers and the village and the city email blasted all, all their constituents so they would be aware of it. The traffic would be slower and whatnot. As far as the shoot at Eisenhower, they just let people know on the periphery. I'm saying probably not even 100 at this point.
Right.
And then they did actually mention it to the police departments, obviously. So people see helicopters landing, and it doesn't make anyone nervous. And then of course the town of Hempstead had to know because it's something out of the ordinary, so they need to be aware of that.
Interesting. So that's a big cost actually, right? To producer.
For the producer, huge cost.
Really huge cost, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for one scene.
Oh yeah.
One scene.
The scene for Blacklist. I mean, I think that lasted 2 minutes, maybe, and it was. I don't even want to venture how much money they end up spending on it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, coming on the helicopters coming and people are falling down and this and that. I mean,
absolutely.
that's a
huge expense.
And then how many people you get on there? You just invite anybody. You come on in here, come on in the shoot like that, or what?
Yeah, no. But usually we have to keep people out for safety purposes and whatnot. So.
No, I'm talking about people who they film. Let's say you said that people had to jump out in the water and.
Oh right, it's all it's all staged. It's all these people are professionals. They deal with them all the time.
So people already. It's not like a person walking on the street. You invite them.
Oh no. They know who they're going to use.
Oh, they know exactly who they're going to use. Yeah. A 2-minute show. I mean, 2-minute scene.
It's amazing.
It's amazing how much money they spend, right?
I know, it's very true. And they were really great. I mean, because this was a really hard sell, at first nobody wanted to say yes, and we had to sort of little by little, chink away at, okay, well, if we do that, will you say yes? If they do that, will you say yes? Until everybody finally agreed. But what they did also, the production company also made like donations to both the city and the village, like to their Sandy funds, because this wasn't that long after Sandy. I don't know if it was 10 or whatever thousand it was, but they gave them both donations as well, which really, some companies have it, some companies don't. But, they had it and they said, no, we want everybody to be really happy. We understand we're disrupting, and we want everybody to be happy with this. So they took care of that, and I think it's important to mention too that any fees that we get, everything that has to be paid for, they pay for that too. It's like there's never any expense whenever somebody films here. If we have to have a worker work overtime, the company is paying for that.
Okay.
It doesn't come on the county. If they need the police, they're paying for the police. And then whatever fees we get after that is money that we make. But anything that happens, things are different than they were a long time ago. So anything that costs anything has to be paid for. It's not even a question.
What is the liability for the producer? Is there a big liability issue here? Because when they do this kind of a scene, right? Do they have a big liability?
A big liability?
A liability, right? For example, if something happens to the bridge, something.
Oh, liability, yes.
Yes.
It depends. It's anywhere from a very small shoot to like 1 million, could be 5 million, could be 10 million. Most of them are not, the higher end, but if you've got all these things happening, you want 10 million, 5 or 10 million, easily.
Very interesting, very interesting. Wow. But how about the computer technology? Nowadays, like you can create the scene on the computer now, right?
You can, but you want it to be as realistic as possible.
So it's still more popular being realistic than on the computer, right?
Exactly.
Wow, interesting, very interesting. Well, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Please stay with us. Welcome back to Interviews That Matter. I'm your host Raj Mehta. We're having a conversation with the director of Nassau County Film Office, Debra Markowitz. Debbie, welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Debbie, you also you are a producer of the movies, films, independent
Yes.
films, right? So let's go to the process. What is the process? I mean, I guess, first the idea comes into your mind or somebody's mind, and that idea is given to a person. How does it work?
Well, it depends. It can work a lot of different ways, but the people that I've worked with basically, they've written the script. Okay, they've written the script. They want to make it into a movie.
Okay.
Okay. Sometimes that's the way it works. Sometimes there's some producers that they look for scripts.
Okay.
They want to make a movie. What's a script that I'd want to do? And maybe they'll put a feeler out on Facebook, and see what they can find there. It can also be, well, actually, I'm developing a script for another producer. She had an idea. We sat down and talked. We were really on the same wavelength. We came out with an amazing outline.
Okay.
Already spoke to an executive producer who's very interested in it. And this is somebody who's pretty high quality, so that's pretty exciting. So now I'm writing it.
Okay.
But we meet and, okay, I like this, can we change that, can we, so that's how that's working. Each one really is different, but I think in the independent circuit especially, usually you write the script and then you usually produce it as well.
No, so who writes the script? You are the one who's writing the script. They come to you
This
for
script
writing
I'm
the
writing,
script.
but the other things I produced I didn't write.
Oh, the other thing you produced and you didn't write.
Right.
So somebody else wrote the script.
Exactly.
Okay, so somebody else writes the script and comes to you for checking at least?
Well, this is what this one in particular, the one I just did. Right now I'm working on Wake Up in New York, which I'll get to that. But the last film I did is called Living with the Dead, and no, it's not a zombie movie.
Okay.
And basically, a friend of mine who runs the Queens World Film Festival had said to me, I have a friend who needs casting because I'd helped people get actors for the movies before.
Okay.
And she said, could you please read this and let me know? And I really didn't have time to read it, but because she's a good friend, and okay, I'll read it. And I read it overnight and said, this is the best thing I've ever read in my life. She's an unbelievable writer. Christine Vitusian is the director and as well as the writer. And I said, okay, I'm in. What do you need? What do we need to do? And I helped her with casting. I got the stars for the movie. I got the background for the movie. We also had to raise money, which we did through Kickstarter. And I just put the word out. I just told people, you know what? I love this movie. I really love it. It's a great story. I think it can really help a lot of people, and people just basically started throwing money at her. I mean, just you know what, this sounds great. She put together a video, and people just pretty much we financed it in the can. She's probably going to have to do a little more fundraising to get it out of post and finish that up. But it's all the filming is done, 22 days of filming. And so that was really impressive.
This one is what? Which movie?
This is called Living with the Dead.
Living with the Dead. So
Yes.
it hasn't been out yet.
No, it's not out yet. It still has to be edited and.
It still has to be edited.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I mean, she just wrote the script and gave it to you.
Right. They wanted my feedback.
And
they wanted my
they wanted your
opinion,
feedback, basically.
and it was brilliant. It was
Yeah.
just. I wish I would have written it. It was just beautiful.
interesting.
So I decided to get involved because it's just. I'm lucky that I'm in the position where, since I work full time, if I have to do something in my part-time hours, it better be something I love.
Right,
and when I read it, I said, I do love this. So I was able to get involved with that.
And then you put together the casting for
yes,
her?
Yes.
Okay, so you're good in casting, basically. You can see the role, that this person will fit in that role.
Exactly. And I have a number of celebrity friends that, not that you just put somebody in because you're friends with them, but it's easy to approach certain people and say, you know what, the director likes you, you're interested. And I've been lucky that they've all said, sure, you say it's great, we believe you. So because I don't say that about everything. I have to really believe it. And before this was a film that I was going to help with casting. They got in touch with me because they know I have certain celebrity friends, and they said, can you get so-and-so? And I said, let me read the script because I'm not going to send it to anybody if I don't think it's good.
Right.
And I read it and I said, that's not who you want. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, and I showed them a couple of reels of other actors that I know, and they said, oh, they're really good. Can we get them? I said, well, I can contact them, see if they're available. And ended up casting the whole movie, and then all of a sudden he asked me if I would come on as a producer, and And so I did that.
Interesting.
So that was fun. That was an amazing project to work on, because the director of photography was just nominated for an Emmy Award for Men Who Built America. The executive producer and a lot of the people on it were either from Boardwalk Empire or Men Who Built America. So to be on something like that with these incredibly talented people, that movie was my cross to bear. It's a local director, Peter Bongiorno. He's also a lawyer, but he was the director of this movie. And it was a very, very exciting experience. And then this last movie, I had met the filmmaker during the Long Island International Film Expo, and just fell in love with his work. Very, very talented individual, another great writer. And he kept saying, we have to work on something one day. We have to, and I said, all right, well, one day we will. And he had said at one point also, can you read my script? His name is David Spaltro, and I read it, and I said, this is amazing. He goes, want to be a producer? And I went, okay. I said, how can I say no? You're brilliant, He's such a talented individual. So this is probably much bigger than all the other things I worked on.
So they don't, like they write the script, but they cannot produce movie?
No,
That's
they do produce it
what is
too.
that? What is the talent?
Producing can be anything that goes into the production end of it. Sometimes people get a producer credit because they've done something, maybe they didn't get paid as much as they would have, or didn't get paid, and therefore they made a producer for putting in their, whether they were the cinematographer or whether, whatever they did. Sometimes a producer is somebody who raises money, sometimes somebody's a troubleshooter. What do you need? Okay, let me fix that, let me figure that out, whatever needs to be done, there could be a lot of different kinds of producers.
Okay, so once they assign you a production, that means you are in charge of everything?
No.
No, okay.
I've never been in charge of anything yet.
Okay.
We talk about what, usually casting is, I did casting on My Crust to Bear, I did casting on Living with the Dead. I've helped a lot of other people with casting. In fact, I just helped another person get a child who's this amazing actor for his movie. But that's actually the one thing I'm not doing on Wake Up in New York, is he already has a casting. The casting director he has is the person who did Homeland. So he's got a really big person, and
he's set with that.
Yeah, he's set with that. So we're still looking for people that we want, but they're higher level people. He also is going to look at some of the studios out here, because they actually there's a couple of scenes that will require sets and what. This is a much bigger deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So how much typical money they make, the actors?
The actors themselves?
Yeah, I mean actors themselves. Like you said 10-hour shooting, right? The day, 10-hour day. They work 10 hours a day.
They can work 8. Depends on the movie.
Depends on the movie.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, if it's union, is it not union? Everything I've worked on so far has been union.
Okay.
But the first two, one was a SAG Ultra. Well, SAG Ultra Low Budget was a short, and then the other one is a SAG Ultra Low Feature. And the union makes rules that you actually really only have to pay anybody who's a SAG actor $100 a day, but you can pay them more if it's a name, kind of thing.
$100 a day?
And sometimes they take it if the role is really good.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
So what is the benefit for them?
Because a lot of times they're typecast maybe, and it's a role that if you get to maybe have a leading role and where you would never have that part before,
so
you always play the cop,
career.
you never play the romantic lead. Now you can play the it's worth it. You want to do it.
For the career, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, they'll take it if one of the actors I work with all the time is on Blue Bloods, and his feeling is if I have a day off, I'm there. But if Blue Bloods calls me, I have to be there. So it's that kind of thing.
Yeah. So you're a casting expert. Let me ask you a question. What role I will fit in?
Oh, what role should you play? Oh, I have to think on this one. Okay.
A bald man? A bald man, maybe?
I'll have to think about it, and analyze it, and let you know.
Oh boy, I thought you would say the lead role.
No, I can see you could be the doctor. I would see you
I can
could
be a doctor. I can be a business person.
Yes,
right?
you could be. Absolutely.
I can be a business person. I can be a doctor. There you go. So remember me now.
I will.
By the way, I did act in a dramas. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we had done a few dramas here when I was little younger. So when we did a few dramas here, and we did the shows in DC, Washington DC area. We did show here in New York. So they were they were successful. Couple of dramas, and I was the actor there. So I do know a little bit about acting. So
okay, no, it's good to know. Good to know.
Okay, so let's talk about the LA International Film Expo, right? You are the founder of the LA International Film Expo,
yes.
one of the founder, and you also are a director over there. So this year there was a big success.
Yes.
Okay, so tell us something about what is that success, and also you said it's a worldwide thing, right?
Yes.
So how many, how many movies are invited there, and what happens?
Okay. Well, basically, the Long Island International Film Expo, and we brand it LIFE, L-I-I-F-E. It's like our before life is our opening party, after life is the closing party, midlife is the middle of the week. Basically, we get independent films. They're short and feature-length independent films from all over the world. We usually get about 400 submissions, a little more, and we usually accept about 120. It could be short. We also take music videos and trailers. We have those individual competitions mixed in. Basically, there's a panel of about 7 people, 7 judges, the selection committee that watches everything. If something gets 3 no's, it doesn't go past it, but there's a lot of maybes, and then people have to really decide what's the highest score, what makes the most sense, what is it good for our audience. And then we'll show those 120, 130 films for about a week in July. We usually have a closing party with a lot of celebrities that come. Last year we had Ali Sheedy from Breakfast Club. We had William Sadler from The Green Mile. Federico Castelluccio from The Sopranos is a regular. He's there almost every year. Brian O'Halloran from all the Clerks movies, the Kevin Smith movies usually comes. Bobby Classy from Blue Bloods is there a lot. He's going to be in Wolf of Wall Street also. We've had Robert Vaughn from Man from U.N.C.L.E. He was a nice favorite. Abe Vigoda has come a couple of times. I mean, it just goes on and on. We've had so many people come, and they come because they really want to support independent films. And a lot of them have gotten jobs, which is kind of interesting. Also, Kathy Moriarty, Armin Asante, and they actually get job offers. Independent filmmaker, will say, how can I get in touch? And I have them give me the script. I give it to the actor. If they're interested, I put them in touch. And but actors like to work.
Right, of course.
Yeah. So if it's a script they like, and it's like a couple of days in between something else, they're going to grab it, which is wonderful. It helps the filmmaker getting distribution for his film, and the actor gets to work.
So this year we got an award here?
Yes, this year the Long Island International Film Expo was named one of the top 25 coolest film festivals in the world by Movie Maker magazine.
Wow.
Yeah, that was amazing. Thank you. I'm very excited about that.
Very nice, yeah.
And I think one of the things that makes life very different is the fact that we set up a film community. Where people will come back. They'll submit films every couple of years. And a lot of times they say, make another movie so I can come back. Doesn't mean it always gets in because it is pretty competitive. But they get to meet people, maybe they work with in the future, and I've seen that happen a lot. And I think one of the things that probably makes me the happiest, if you know that we had a film that got a distributor and ended up opening in California, a movie called Dimensions, and 2 of the other people they had met went to go see the film, to see them and reconnect, and they get to know each other. And so people really all over the world now have these relationships in this network. And we also have panels for them. We have free panels on script writing, film distribution, and fundraising is a really big one. We have a really good team that teaches that. We have a filmmaker's breakfast. That's a lot of fun. People can ask questions, and the moderator will ask them interesting information that's always helpful to the crowd. Like if somebody wants to make a film, how do I make a film? How'd you do that? What was your budget? How'd you raise it? And they can ask questions like that. So that works out really well.
So, number of independent films are all over the world are like far exceeds the box office, right?
As far as the box, I would have to say so.
Yeah, right. Because
I would think so.
Like what is the ratio? Like 1 to 50, or 1 to 10, 1 to 20?
It's hard to say. I wouldn't say 1 to 50 would be excessive. I wouldn't say that.
You think, right? What that means is that box office movies, like you always hear about making $100 million and $200 million and $300 million, things like that, right? The independent films are, what is the typical, like what, 5 million, 10 million?
Well, you hope you make that. I can't say that. I was talking actually about the amount of films. The ratio of the amount of films. It depends. They may make nothing, but if you have a really good film and the budget is low enough, it makes it very attractive for somebody to pick it up. Whether it's probably not theatrical, but maybe through Redbox, maybe through streaming, maybe they're selling it on iTunes. There could be a lot of different ways to market that. Maybe they're going to be on DVD or VOD or on demand. We see a lot of that happen to a lot of our films. But I look at this film, Living with the Dead. It's a feature, and we have names in it, but it's so low budget that I have to think when it's finished, this is going to be so attractive, because if you could pick up a film that costs under $100,000 to make, how much money can you make? Even if it just goes right to video, what kind of money can you make?
Wow, so under $100,000.
Oh, it's going to be easily under $100,000.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's probably going to be under 70.
That's not a typical budget.
That's
to make
very
a movie.
low.
That's very low.
Yeah. But then I saw 2 filmmakers last year that had really good films that their budgets were like $13,000. How did you do that?
13,000?
I know. How did you do that? And they said, well, we didn't pay anybody. It was non-union. You know, they went non-union, which I'm not an advocate of that, but I understand. You know,
Right,
they said,
right,
and they just said, we just got people that we knew were really good, and we just, you know, try and get all locations for free, and we, you know, it was amazing. No names in it at all, but it's still a really good film, $13,000.
Wow.
So it can be done. I've had filmmakers, there's a movie we had a couple of years ago called Dimensions, A Line, a Loop, a Tangle of Threads, which is an amazing science fiction period
Right.
piece, beautiful, beautiful. They actually sold their house to make that movie.
Wow.
They actually sold their house to make that
Oh,
movie.
yeah? Ah, interesting.
Yeah, and I just heard from filmmakers that we had a film a couple of years ago from Australia. She said that her and her husband just sold. We just sold our house. I said, did you read? They said we're going to start a studio in Australia, a small studio. So you know, I said okay, go for it. You know, live your
Interesting.
passion.
Did they make
you know?
money? Did they make money?
Well, they're just starting it now.
Okay.
The other filmmakers are starting to make some money back. Which
Oh,
is
yeah?
good. But they literally said, we want to make this movie. It's been a dream
Wow,
of mine. They did the
interesting.
composing themselves. Gorgeous score. Everything about the movie was beautiful. One of the couple, I don't remember which one, had actually worked on one of the Harry Potter movies.
Right.
So they knew how to do the art direction and the art design and whatnot. And it was just a beautiful film. And they had to do it. That was their passion. So you meet the
Wow.
most amazing people. And we have a very high ratio of filmmakers that come in. Of course, it's all the local films,
Right.
but say we had 120 films, I don't really remember for last year, we had at least 80 people come in.
Oh,
So you have some
okay.
local, but most of them are coming in from France or Spain or, you know, and usually they stay the whole week.
So, you know, $13,000, right? I mean, obviously the chances of making money, you know, everything is marketing,
Yes.
right? Everything is marketing. How many people you can reach and how many people would like to watch your movie, right? Because this films goes on also theaters.
Oh, most of them won't.
It won't,
Yeah,
right?
most won't, yeah.
It won't. So it is only on like YouTube,
Right.
things like that. But on YouTube, you don't pay anything.
Could be on demand.
On demand.
Yeah, probably not YouTube. It could be on demand. It could be Redbox. You see a lot of these things go on Redbox. Could be DVD sales. I mean, you don't have Blockbuster anymore, but I've seen a lot of our movies end up in Blockbuster. So instead, probably Netflix. You know, they probably sell them to Netflix and other outlets like that. A lot of ways to sell your films these days
Is
if
that
they're
right?
good. Yeah.
Okay, so marketing is a key thing, right? I mean, if somebody doesn't know how to do it,
Yes.
you're done.
Exactly.
Wow, interesting, interesting. The typical budget for a movie is what, 250,000, half a million?
It depends.
It
It could
depends.
be. I've
It's all
seen
like
people
that.
make short films for $500. I've seen people make feature films for $12,000. You know, we've gotten independent films. Probably the most expensive independent film we've had probably was about between 5 and 7 million. Most of them are much lower.
Oh,
much
most of them are
lower.
much lower, right? Yeah, right. So first, you know, script. You got the script. You got the idea. You got the script. Now you got this script. I mean the screen. The actor selection. You know, right? And then you go into production. But before that, you also have to line up your investors,
Oh yes.
right? Because
yes.
you have already a budget numbers, like a business plan, right?
You should,
So you
yes.
should have. I mean, typically, right?
Right.
So now you say okay, you need $500,000. Now you go out and talk to your investor people, and then whatever they want to invest, they invest, right?
Yes.
What is the expected return? Like, you know, when I do a business plan, I always have like, okay, this is my cost, this is what I'm selling at, this is I'm going to make, and this is the investment return for my investors. Same thing works here?
There is a contract generally where 50% of the film is going to be for the producers and people that, you know, whatever they have to pay for, and the other 50% can be split amongst the investors. It really depends on what the budget of the film is, you know, and then what it's broken up into, how much you can put in an actual investment. I know there's something like you have to have an income of, I want to say 200,000 to be able to even invest in a film. I don't know why that is, but there's some law that you have to have that. And then there's a lot of people that raise money, say through Kickstarter, Indiegogo, where these people are never going to get a percentage. You know, they're just putting in $2,500 or $30 because maybe they want a credit for their IMDb page if they're in the business, you know, or they just really want to support it. You know, so and then there's perks that come along with that, free DVDs. Maybe they get an invitation to a screening. Maybe they, you know, so a lot of people raise money that way, and then they're not getting a percentage back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the investors, I mean, you hope to get money back. You know?
Exactly. That's why you invest, right? Otherwise, you know. So you do get like what, 20% return or something approximately?
Hard to say.
Hard to say?
Yeah,
Very difficult?
yeah. I'm not 100% sure on that one. So I think it depends on the film and whatever contract you come up with.
Another important person in the movie is director, right?
Oh yes.
Yes, we had a Bollywood actor here before, right? And he said, you know what? My director tells me how do I say something. Like if I like my director says, act. Like kill somebody like a cool man. So all I do is put the gun and boom, shoot. It's cool. Otherwise, if he says go like a macho man and things like that. So my director tells me what to do, right? Really. So that's the same thing here, obviously, right?
Well, it depends. Every director is different.
Every director is
I
different.
mean, I've read stories that Woody Allen pretty much gets good actors and basically says, go.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Everything's almost one shot, and it's what's my motivation? You're the actor, figure it out, so everybody's different. There's, some people obviously want you to understand what they're trying to get out of you because interpretations, choices could be very different.
Right.
I mean, the directives I worked for would be very much like, okay, this is the state of mind you're in.
Right.
This is what just happened, and then take it there. And usually that'll, okay, that looks good, but maybe let's try it a different way too, because sometimes the thing you don't anticipate will come out like magic.
Yep. So actor has to understand like what is the character basically, and then they can based on the character director says.
And there's directors that scream, but they got to be really big names for anybody to work with them. But.
Let's talk about your new book that you're writing now. What is it about?
Okay, well, it's actually the last in a trilogy. It's called the Karmic Wind Trilogy, and it's very metaphysical. It's past, present, future life. It's about two people who meet back in 1860s. It's during the Civil War, and it's all kinds of tragic and heartwarming things that happen to them. And there's always I don't want to use the word sin, but there's always something that they need to work out that they didn't work out then, and it's something they have to fix or they have to learn how to fix. Right. And they come back in say 2010 or 2005, and now they're in current day life. So now you have these two people who had these things that had happened to them in a previous life they need to work out. There's chemistry there, but what's the problem? There's something going on. So it's taking life situations with these two people who love each other so desperately, and why things do work out or don't work out. And so the last one, which takes place in 2070, is the two people coming back again with everything they've gone through. Exactly. And who's afraid to get involved with somebody and they don't know why, but there's something that just terrifies them and they don't know why that is. And the other person who really knows they have to get to know her, but she's like an ice princess, and why isn't it happening? And it's really interesting.
Interesting, it is interesting. It's very interesting. When I hear this.
Yeah, so the first one is Naked in the Rain. That takes place in 2010. Sarah and Caleb is actually the prequel, which takes place during the Civil War. The reason I wrote that after is because I hadn't planned on this to be a trilogy. But I fell in love with two of the characters, and so I took it back. And I had so many fans that basically were saying, well, what happens after that? I said, well, I have to write a book.
So you have to write that?
I really wrote it for them. So Naked in the Wind, Sarah and Caleb, and then Karmic Wind takes place in 2070. And one of my reviewers said, I feel like you wrote this for us. I said, I actually did, because I was done, but you kept saying, but what happens? So I had to, go back and write that. But so that's that, yeah. And I'm writing I'm ghostwriting a couple of books, and I'm about 110 pages into my fourth book, which right now I have these other, where I get the time. Right now that's on hold because I have to work on these other projects, and then I'll get back to mine probably not till 2015, to be honest with you. But I have so many projects on my plate, so they have to just be as time allows.
See, we have in Bollywood, we have, we are number one producer in the whole world, right? The movie producers in the world. And we have many movies of reincarnations, right? So this is typical similar thing, I guess.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that,
we have so many movies of reincarnation where, your previous life, and then you come into new life, and then you try to go to the same place where you know already everything, things like that. Those things. It's a nice. There are a few good movies made out of that. Right? Yeah. So we do have, and we have actually a case happened a few years ago where a boy, 5-year boy, he knew the whole Gita. Gita is a holy book, right? He knew at 5 years old, he knew everything, and he could tell where he was before in the previous life. and he took them over there. He named everybody over there. I mean, it was amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah, yep. So.
Yeah. Now, a friend was telling me when her daughter was young, her daughter I think was 5 or younger, and she's sitting in her car seat, and my friend is driving with somebody in the front seat, and they're talking about something, and one of them's going, what's this word that I'm thinking of? And her daughter takes the pacifier out of her mouth and goes, metaphor. and they both went,
wow.
Why did she just say, and puts a
exactly.
pacifier, and where did that come from? You know?
Right.
So there's a lot of things
Interesting,
that are not, they're not concrete, but how do you explain it otherwise? So.
Yep. See, our religious belief is reincarnation. We do have, 84 million lives, different lives, and all we do is transform into different lives. That's a religious belief here.
Yeah, no, I actually believe that. I do believe that.
Right, yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I mean, it is a wealth of knowledge that you have given to us, our viewers. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions, comments, you can email me at rajmitv@gmail.com. That's again rajmitv@gmail.com. You can watch our prior shows on YouTube at youtube.com/Infosys International. Again, that's youtube.com/Infosys International. Until next time, have a wonderful week. Thank you.
Thank you. So good.